duty, but an emotion. And you could really see that among the people who gathered. Lithuanian citizens were moved to tears, moved to genuine grief. But again, this was a ceremony for Americans, for American soldiers. Officials arranged for an archbishop to bless the motorcade before it drove to the airport to start the process of returning those remains, returning those soldiers to the U.S. In our country, of course, it is a sacred tradition that when members of the armed services...
Donald Trump just dug himself a grave, literally and politically. Much like he did for his ex-wife, Donald Trump has decided to dig himself a grave, this time a political one, right at his golf course. Because that's exactly where he's been holed up for the last 48 hours. While the American economy falls apart. While Republicans openly revolt against his reckless tariff plan, and while he gets caught in one of the most disgraceful scandals of his presidency, now it's not just the scandal itself that's jaw-dropping, it's the announcement he made right after. And trust me, it makes everything worse. A lot worse. We're going to break it all down in just a moment. But real quick, if you support honest, fearless coverage that isn't afraid to call out the chaos, hit that like button, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. It goes a long way and genuinely means the world, okay? Before we get to Trump's disturbing announcement, let's start with the scandal itself. And for that, here's Rachel Maddow laying it out perfectly.
So they are soldiers from Lithuania. There's some others from Germany as well, but look what they have tucked into their pockets. They have little American flags just below the flag of their own countries, sewn onto their sleeves. In the capital city of Lithuania yesterday, thousands of soldiers and dignitaries, and also just ordinary people, lined up in the streets to pay their respects and to honor 4 American soldiers who died in Lithuania this past week during a training exercise. The ceremony was attended by the president of Lithuania, who gave a speech on the occasion. He said that for Lithuanians, serving your country is not just a duty, but an emotion. And you could really see that among the people who gathered. Lithuanian citizens were moved to tears, moved to genuine grief. But again, this was a ceremony for Americans, for American soldiers. Officials arranged for an archbishop to bless the motorcade before it drove to the airport to start the process of returning those remains, returning those soldiers to the U.S. In our country, of course, it is a sacred tradition that when members of the armed services die in the line of duty overseas, their remains come home to the U.S. in what's called a dignified transfer. Their remains are flown home specifically to Dover Air Base with American flags draped over the coffins. It's a very somber, very important, very serious, very specific ceremony. And a dignified transfer is often attended by the President of the United States as a sign of respect from the Commander-in-Chief. After that very moving send-off from Lithuania and from the government and the people of Lithuania, the White House announced here in the United States that when those 4 young fallen American soldiers landed back home here in the U.S., President Donald Trump would not attend the dignified transfer. He would not be waiting at Dover to pay respects to the service members who died, even as Lithuania's president made sure he was there to see them off. Donald Trump has decided instead that he's going to Florida to watch a golf tournament and to go to a golf dinner tonight. You know, given his previous comments, I guess you could say this is consistent with his apparent level of investment on this issue. I got to tell you, we do not play a lot of tape of Donald Trump talking on this show. We sort of it's not a hard and fast rule, but kind of a rule of thumb on this show is that we try to cover what the president does rather than just what he says. He gets plenty of coverage for what he says. I prefer to focus on actions rather than his words. In this case, though, I'm going to make a little bit of an exception. I think what he said here is its own kind of action. I just want you to see it. It's very brief. This is how Donald Trump, President of the United States, responded when he was asked about the service members in Lithuania after they were first went missing.
Have you been briefed about soldiers in Lithuania? Have you been briefed about the soldiers in Lithuania who are missing?
No, I haven't.
Nope. What was it again that the Lithuanian president said about service? He said, for us, it is more than a duty, it is an emotion. For Donald Trump, it was, no, haven't heard anything about it. Next question.
Disgraceful doesn't even begin to cover it. This is a man who couldn't have less respect for the brave men and women who have served and died for this country. He simply does not care. He's spitting in their faces, in the faces of their families, their friends, their legacies. And what does he do? He ships Pete Hegseth, a couple gin and tonics deep, no doubt, over there to run PR cover while he hits golf balls with the Saudis. Absolutely disgraceful. But it didn't end there. It got worse, because after getting caught red-handed, Donald Trump made an announcement that took this whole scandal to a new level of shame. Donald Trump is participating in golf tournaments over the weekend, and a statement on his progress sent out by the pool went viral Saturday among members of the press for being tone deaf or worse after a terrible week for the stock market and the president opting out of a solemn ceremony for fallen American service members to attend the golfing event on Friday. Trump chose not to attend the dignified transfer of remains of 4 Americans who were killed in the training exercise in Lithuania, instead sending Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth Trump, then attended a live golf event. New York Times reporter Maggie Haberman said the move shows Trump just doesn't care about certain optics, but military family members who spoke to media certainly cared that he did not participate on Saturday. Trump took part in the Senior Club Championship at his Trump National Golf Course in Jupiter, Florida. It was from there that the update on his standing went out as shared by the White House. The president won his second round matchup of the Senior Club Championship today in Jupiter, Florida, and advances to the championship round tomorrow. While the country burns, Trump plays golf. The White House is celebrating Donald Trump's win, which I don't buy for a second. Instead of addressing the crashing stock market, the economic disaster unfolding, or the sacrifices of service members that Trump clearly doesn't respect. They're bragging about his golf game. Let that sink in. We're past North Korea levels of propaganda at this point. This is a whole new dimension of delusion. It's tone deaf, it's insulting, and it's terrifying. And then I saw a tweet, one that stopped me cold. Someone wrote, "This doesn't look like a guy who's worried about elections." And they're right. That could mean one of two things. Trump just doesn't care. He'll ride out his time and walk away without a second thought. Or worse, he has alternative plans that should scare all of us. Because if this is how he's acting publicly, so brazen, so dismissive, he clearly understands how bad this moment is for him politically. And still doesn't care. That is chilling. And it's not just him. Republicans in Congress are right there with him, legislating like they're immune to consequences, like they know something we don't. Luckily, Adam Schiff wasn't afraid to call it out, and he tied it directly to Trump's tone-deaf golfing in this powerful takedown.
This week, Donald Trump spent his time doing 3 things: golfing at Mar-a-Lago, announcing his latest set of tariffs that will cost families $3,800 more a year, and that are so chaotic and far-reaching that they included retaliatory tariffs on a remote island inhabited only by penguins. I kid you not. And third, advocating for cuts that would destroy the services and benefits millions rely on for their health care and retirement savings. Today, with the stock market in the tank and the nation's economy in free fall, we're expected to vote on this failed businessman's latest brilliant financial plan for the nation. So let's talk about his budget. At its very core, this bill will give massive tax cuts to billionaires and make middle-class families pay for it. Tax cuts that billionaires simply don't need. And only the billionaires and Republicans in D.C. apparently support this. But wait, the bill that will pass in the dead of night accomplishes other partisan fantasies as well. It takes away health care and goes after the heart of Social Security. It is the same old playbook. Billionaires win and families lose. And lest we forget, it's the exact same playbook that they ran in 2017. So how exactly is this a win for billionaires? 2/3 of all of the benefits in this bill go to the super wealthy and corporations. 2/3. Over the next 30 years, this bill would spend $25 trillion, that's trillion with a T, on tax cuts for the wealthy and big corporations. It would add $37 trillion To the debt, $37 trillion. That will double the nation's debt. Double it. It will also, by the way, hand tens of millions of dollars to Elon Musk just in the next few years. So he makes out like a bandit. But if you're a family earning, I don't know, $30,000 a year, struggling to get by, or maybe $50,000 or $75,000 a year, you'll be lucky to see any tax relief from this plan. But if you're in the top 0.1%, you'll get an extra $300,000 a year at the very least. For every dollar that would go to people waiting tables or teaching at a preschool, someone in the top 0.1% would get over $52,000. That's $52,000 for every dollar that someone waiting tables or teaching at a preschool will get. To pass this bill will mean that the top 5% of earners will get nearly half of all the tax benefits. That is just not right, not fair, not wise, not sound, not sustainable. Life is already too hard for working families without taking more from them to make the rich even richer. So how is this bill a loser for families? It's a loser because it would raise costs by more than $1,000 on low-income Americans across the board, from healthcare to groceries to housing. Families who are already hurting and are going to be hurting more big time because of Donald Trump's massive tariff tax. Tariffs that are raising the costs of everything they buy, from coffee to the eggs they have for breakfast, to the clothes they dress their kids in before school, to the gas they use to drive to work, to the materials their small businesses import, to the meals that they have when they arrive at home or the sandwich they grab in between jobs. These families are getting punched right in the gut. And Donald Trump knows it, and knows that this budget would amplify their pain. Because beyond exploding costs for working Americans, it will also decimate Medicaid, threatening health care for nearly 80 million Americans. That's 2 in 3 nursing home residents, 2 in 5 children, and 1 in 3 Americans in rural communities. But even if someone isn't on Medicaid, they'll still feel the cost, they'll still feel the pain. Medicaid is the largest insurer in the nation, so when it goes down, so will the care that so many families rely on. Now, whether you're on Medicaid or you are not, it is your local hospital that may close. Clinics will close, doctors will have to move or shutter their practices. Care that used to be maybe one town away will now be an entire county away, and a very long drive, especially for Americans in rural areas.
These are, without a doubt, the worst people in the world running our government, and it's our job to make that painfully abundantly clear every single day. So if you want to support that mission, hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around until the end, drop a blue heart in the comments so I know you're with me. Until next time, I'll see you soon.